Well, we are here, everyone. We got to talk to a couple people last week who are involved in Scar, a short Western that is coming out very soon. And now we are here with the person who is not only in front of the camera, who plays Kate, but also directed Scar. I'm with Dania, Denise. How are you doing, Dania?
I am so happy we were able to make this happen. So first of all, thank you for giving me a chance to redeem myself.
Oh,
This is a
no
much better
worries.
environment than when I was sweaty, running from my shoot in my car. It was a good call to just not even do that.
Yeah, well, when I saw that you were calling from your car, I was like, you know what? We're just going to reschedule because I mean, you are a person in demand. Just looking at your upcoming projects, not just Scar, but a variety of other projects as well. But first, I wanted to talk about Scar. It's this new short western coming out, and what was it that made you want to not only play Kate but take on the role of directing this story?
It was funny how it all played out because Brandon reached out to me first with
Mm.
an idea for the story. I had met him at a networking event that I was sitting on the panel for. I was one of the guest speakers, and he was in the audience and afterwards came up and, it's a people person business. We networked, super great guy.
Sure.
We always championed each other on social media. And then he sent me a message and said, "Hey, I've got a short that I wrote, and I don't know you're even interested in any capacity to be part of this project, but would love to talk about it if you're interested." So I said, "Hey, shoot me a script." I first and foremost love the story. It all
Mhm.
begins with the story, right? So that intrigued me. And we got on the Zoom, and I'm not going to be the person to just assume I'm going to be director. I really didn't know what they had in mind for me. So I just kind of said pretty bluntly, "Hey, I do want to be part of this project, but what do you need?" And they had designs early on. They knew. They were like, "Well, you're a really good director. We really like the work that you've done. We checked out your other shorts. Is that something you'd be interested in?" And I said, "Absolutely. I'm glad you said it because that's the hat that I wanted to wear, especially when I knew that they were going to be involved in the project." I'd never met Justin prior to this, and I
Mhm.
only really knew Brandon the one time in person. So I was very eager to see what they could do. And the Kate situation came about really organically because that was not even on my radar. I knew there was Kate involved in the story. I asked them, "Has Kate been cast yet?" And they said, "Well, we're in the middle of doing the casting process. We've definitely gotten a lot of tapes, but if you're interested, you're more than welcome to audition if that's something you want to do." And so I was like, "Sure, why not?" With no expectation, I promise you. I'm not that
Sure.
person who just has to be in front of the camera and behind it.
Mhm.
I said, "Okay, I'm just going to have fun with the audition. I'll do my spin on who I think Kate is. And if they find somebody else who does that character justice, that's what we want, right? That's way
Sure.
more important than feeding any ego I might have." And so I just sent it off, didn't think about it. I'm going to direct it anyway. I'm going to edit it because they expressed interest in me editing. And then they were like, "Yeah, so you want to be Kate?" And I was like, "Oh, here's another hat to wear." But I accepted for the challenge, and I it just made sense. It was great. So it was a cool feeling. I worked for it, guys. I did not get it just because I'm the director. I promise you.
But I mean that's true indie spirit. Even if it was you were directing and you chose to act in front, 9 times out of 10 when I've talked to other indie directors who are also in front of the camera, it's out of resource and necessity because that's one less person basically that you need to worry about casting, paying, I mean, all of the things that come with that. And if you're willing to take on those multiple hats, I give mad respect. I mean, you're a multiple threat, as they would say, because you wear so many hats. But that is kind of the indie film spirit, isn't it? Is to everybody kind of does a little bit of everything.
100%. And that's one of the things, it can be a blessing and a curse, but when you're with the right crew,
Right.
it's a magic formula. I
Hmm.
always like to say that that's not my job isn't really set on those sets. Now, just short of holding a camera and expensive equipment, if you really don't know what you're doing, that's kind of the boundary you set where it's like, yeah, that actually should not be your job. Don't do that. But other than that, I love being crew. I have done production assistant work. I have done script soup. I don't have an ego in that sense. I just want to be on set. So
Sure.
it was really important to me as a filmmaker to be able to put myself in the shoes of my crew where I could,
Mhm.
especially as a director, where I want to understand what everybody's doing because then that allows me to make their job easier. And when people know you care and have enough consideration to try to do what they do, they'll bend over backwards and give you the world. So it didn't take a lot for me to, I can boom up. I can, like I said, strip soup. I can do a little bit of sound mixing with the whole fanny pack situation. I have held a camera. That's dangerous only because I would probably be obsessed with cinematography. So I stepped back from that. I was like, I don't have the bandwidth to do this. I love editing. So
Mhm.
I do my best to try to have a little bit of experience in what everyone does, but I'm
Mm.
very clear in what hats fit me perfectly. And I
Sure.
don't try to overextend myself. So it worked out.
And that's important too, but I mean it's hard to do when you're doing what a shoot of like 2 days and it's a period piece
Yes.
and you've got
Yeah.
costuming and you're trying to sell that this is a Western. I mean, this, I think I don't think people kind of appreciate just when you do a period piece, if you want to do it right,
Yeah.
just how much. I mean, we talked to the screenwriter of Scar. He mentioned that he did hours. Brandon did an hours and hours of research to do this, and then you have to handle it and you're like, okay, costuming and the look and everything. What was your approach for that doing a period piece? Did you look at other westerns? Were you familiar with the genre? What kind of went into that process?
Ironically, the Western cowboy theme had been chasing me unexpectedly. Prior to getting on this project, I was attached to a different cowboy series. It was supposed to be a
Mhm.
proposed pilot for a series, and it hadn't gone to production yet. We were in pre-production doing a lot of research with that. So I was watching, was it 1880? Is it 1886, 1883? I always get the year wrong for
Yeah,
that.
I forget what the year it is
1886.
too, but yeah.
You guys know what I'm talking about. And then I hadn't gotten to Yellowstone. I kind of wanted to go backwards. So I started with that, loved it. I just really got inspired by everything, the cinematography, the performances, the character development. So by the time Brandon reached out and the other project had been on pause for a bit. So I was like, okay, we're not really doing anything with that, but I was already in the world inspirationally. So the timing worked out because I was sort of able to take all of that research and inspiration and put it into this project. So when we
Mhm.
had our Zoom meeting and we talked about vision, I just kind of explained to them off of reading the script and just kind of getting a sense for the world how I saw it. I used words like dirty and gritty and ambient sound. We want music to play a part of it, but I don't believe in music dictating how the audience feels. I want it to just enhance a moment. And I said, I want to hear the crunch of the dirt under your feet. I want to hear the creek. I want to hear nature and I want to hear the world and bring the audience into that. I want you guys to be dirty. I don't want this to look glorified and beautiful. And they were just like, yes, yes, we were all speaking the same language. And so once Brandon filled in a couple of the details for me from the creative point of view, being the writer, and Justin kind of put in his preferences and his ideals, it the three of us really just came together and had a common vision. And of course, bringing in Joe with the DP situation, he's a brilliant visionary as it is behind the camera. So it was just the perfect cocktail. We all had a clear vision. We were excited about it. We were also excited to experiment. It's very
Mhm.
collaborative. It's not about just everything that I want. It's here's my wish list. Can we do that? And also, what are our alternatives? You're almost always going to have to pivot because that's not even just indie, that's film in general. 90% of filmmaking is problem solving. So we came in with a very solid idea and foundation, but we all were experienced enough to know that if we have to pivot and compromise, we will, as long as it's in the best interest of the story. That was first and foremost to us.
Yeah, and now I haven't seen it yet because it's still in post, but I did see the trailer, and just looking from the trailer, it looks like a lot of effort. That effort's coming through on screen. Though it's funny you mentioned the creek. They were talking about how hard it was to hear each other's dialogue at the creek scene.
Yeah. Yeah, it was one of those situations where unless you're in this life, you kind of take for granted when you're watching the final product to go, oh, that looks great. They couldn't hear each other. I didn't know they couldn't hear each other because they had been working so well off the visual cues. They gave me no indication. And
Sure.
they're the type of actors who they dive into the character. So I don't break them out of that when I talk to them. I try
Hmm.
to talk to them as their character. But we had boom shadows and we had to get the boom close enough and the boom couldn't get close enough. It was gymnastics to get that particular scene, but it worked out. We've got to do a little ADR, but that's kind of commonplace with the territory. But yeah, that dang creek, man, it looks beautiful. Don't get me wrong, but you guys, when you see the final product, give us grace because we fought that creek. Like we were doing the film gods work that day. Okay.
Yeah, audio is always the toughest thing. I mean, when I'm reviewing indie films and that, I understand production. I mean, I was script supervisor on a couple of shorts myself for an anthology. For a director, I know an editor by profession. He asked me to be on, and that was a wonderful experience. Even a grueling, sweating in a barn. It was
Yeah,
13 hours, and I told him, "When are we doing this again?" You know,
exactly.
you know.
Yes. Yes.
But I always look at audio, and I always, if there's one thing that I comment on, is even if the visuals aren't great, if you can really nail the audio, that will win an audience over even more so than visuals. But when your audio is off, I don't know what it is, but
Mhm.
you could have beautiful visuals, and if your audio just sounds very like from the camera and not like
Yeah.
under, that throws you off more. It's
Yeah.
wild.
It's sorcery. I can't explain it. It is sorcery with the camera and just how our brains work when we're watching something visual and cinematic.
Mhm.
But yeah, audio is everything. Thankfully, the audio has not been super problematic. It's quite surprisingly, it's only like one or two things we need to do with ADR, but other than that, thankfully, it worked out. And our musical score that's being composed right now, as you heard some of it in the trailer,
Right.
custom music. And it is just, we're so excited because, again, it layers on that bit of authenticity. It
Mhm.
draws you into that world and it makes you feel something without forcing something. And that was really important that we communicated to the composer, um, Kevin, and we let him know, music's important, but we don't want the whole thing scored. We do want
Right.
a lot of ambient sound. We want it to be very clear when it's just the day to day. We wanted it to feel as fly on the wall as possible. And that usually doesn't come with music perfectly timed.
No, not always. I'm a big cinema score head junkie. I've have been since I was young, and I love scores. But it's also effective when you don't have it, when you just have that natural sound, especially for a film like what you're doing, which appears to have a lot of dramatic elements. Sometimes you want that just natural moment, and then when they're traveling across the country, then do the big epic sound,
Yeah, time and place. Time and the place.
And speaking of time and place, what kind of effort, challenges did it prove to try to capture that time? Because Brandon and Justin both mentioned you happened upon the hotel, but you've also got your costuming in that, which is always important for a period piece. And it's a
Yeah.
little tough for indie film when you're working on a smaller budget. So how did that come together to capture that? What challenges did you find for doing that?
When it came to the wardrobe, we were blessed with Chantal. She is our wardrobe stylist. She loves the period, and she had a contact with a costume rental place out of, I believe, Sacramento. So she started those conversations early on. She hit the ground running and, was getting mood boards put together. She brought those to the Zoom meeting. She gave us photos and ideas of options for myself and for the guys, and we kind of told her what we liked versus what maybe not wouldn't work. And it was a lot of conversations about, well, what their pants look like this back then, or how were jeans back then, did they have jeans? And it's like, yeah, they had and so it was this whole learning moment because,
Mhm.
again, period, right?
Right.
The first thing people are going to do instead of just enjoying the movie is going to try to pick out, oh, that if it's glaring with what you're wearing, it just
Right.
doesn't work. So we were very fortunate that none of the costuming fell on our plate. Now, have
Mhm.
I had to source wardrobe before? Absolutely. Back to our time tradition trend of, wearing all the hats. But for
Mhm.
this one, it was so wonderful to have somebody whose responsibility was purely to make sure we looked the part, that we
Mhm.
felt good in the clothes, and that it fit. So she had sourced two different outfits for me. One is more of the lady of the night, handling business in between clients kind of situation, the corset and the bustier type situation, and then more of the daytime dress.
Sure.
And The dress itself was small. It was my size, but there was no elastic.
Oh,
There's no give,
right,
right? So I pretty much was held hostage in the dress for most of the time that I wore it because once I got it on, which I definitely needed help with, once I got it on, it fit fine. And
sure.
then I forgot I had to take it off at the end of the night. And by then I had, been sweating a little bit
Yeah.
and you get constricted and stuff. Ladies who change in dressing rooms and you've been sweating, all of you are screaming silently because you feel my pain. But again, no elastic, no stretch. And I
Mhm.
was terrified of ripping the dress because
Oh,
it's a
sure.
residency, not trying to do it.
Right.
And I had our boom op, Riley, who's one of my good girlfriends. I've worked with her a lot. So I just said, Riley, come in the bathroom with me. We're going to get real close right now because I can't get out of this dress by myself. I'm scared. So she was behind me and we literally had a whole like scoot and wiggle it inch. And I had to, I'm not a contortionist, but I had to Cirque du Soleil my shoulder kind of out of the socket. Like the struggle was so real,
Mhm.
but it was worth it because it was
It look,
amazing.
yeah, I mean the shots look amazing, costuming and everything in the trailer that I got to see. It looks like you captured it really well, and you got a campfire scene. I talked to Justin and Brandon. I'm like, you had to get a
No,
campfire scene for a Western, right?
absolutely. We were really, so many things that are exciting about film is endless, the things I can number. But when things just fall into place
Mhm.
and it's exactly what you needed, and you don't have to fake it till you make it, when you get those real locations and you have people, again, we were on private property, so we knew the owners who so graciously let us shoot at the hotel that they also owned, but also on their property. And, they were like, we burn fires all the time. Here you go. Like they just put it together. And I know that it helped the actors really just get into the scene.
Mhm.
It's one thing to be a green screen actor, and that in and of itself is talent to pretend there's a world around you. But there's just nothing better than being in an actual location, having the warmth of the fire. You know, Granted, I was worried that something was going to catch on fire or someone was going to fall into the fire. But that aside, it just made shooting that scene so amazing, and we had a blast. It was just great. It was so great.
And that's fun. That's great that you could have fun like that. And you're right. I mean, real sets, I totally get budget constraints and everything people do on green screens and that. And I don't fault anyone for that. But there is something just natural, just you can tell it's natural. And it
Yes.
seems like the actors really do get into it though. And you do this on you have suggestions and such on your YouTube channel, which by the way I checked out, and I saw you have videos on there almost as old as I've posted videos on there.
Yeah.
So for when you were doing modeling and such, and I looked at it, I'm going, oh wow, I'm like that's pretty cool.
Thank you.
But you do suggestions as well. I mean, we do have a whole generation of actors and that coming out of acting school and that who are now, I guess, more acclimated to doing green screen acting versus, say, those who were in there before it became popular. Have
Sure.
you noticed that there's kind of a line? Does the do those just coming out of school, do they seem more relaxed around green screen or?
I don't know if the word is relaxed. I think there's the same anxieties that a lot of actors have going from training into the real thing are
Mhm.
always present. I think no matter what the
Sure.
the climate looks like, I think they're more acclimated to the
Mm.
expectations of what certain content is because it's social media. I mean, look at it,
Right.
UGC culture, even for actors, all the casting breakdowns that I go through as an actor, the number of times I see UGC needed, and I'm just like, oh my God, can I just be an actor? Like I don't and then you have the vertical shorts that are super huge now. I
True.
have several friends who have really kind of dove into that genre. And, so it just, the landscape keeps changing and evolving. And this latest generation of actors, it's another day at the office to them. So I
Sure.
think they're more focused on just, can I get on a project, first of all? Like whether it's
Mhm.
green screen, whether it's in a studio or on set, like I just want to get a job. So I think
Yeah.
the hustle is still real. They're just a little less um, intimidated, I think, by the
Mm.
way it looks
Mhm.
now.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that I totally understand that, but with a Western, I'm glad you did
Mm,
natural
yeah,
settings because I'm like, for a Western, yeah, if you're doing like a sci-fi thing or whatever, green screen
exactly.
composite, I mean, that's been a staple in that genre. But here with Western, you kind of need those open spaces, that feeling you're
Mhm.
actually outside,
Yeah,
bugs, all of that good stuff that come
they were
across.
bugs. They were bugs. It was so funny. I was showing the rough cut to my mom,
Uh-huh.
and the in the beginning scene where they're talking, and she's like, "Oh, that's really cool. You've got the bugs in there. Did you add that?" I said, "Mom, those bugs were real." Because they were killing all of us slowly behind the camera. Like, so it's cool to see it, but you do see the little,
Yeah,
and again, it's just that authenticity, that realness,
right.
and the production value that comes with shooting at a location like that, especially for a period piece. It can't be beat. It
Right.
really can't.
And you helping and producing and such, being able to do it all at one location, or you had the owners who had both the hotel and the outdoor location. I imagine that helps as well because I've talked to a number of producers. I've understand a lot more because when I was younger, I never understood a producer. I'm like, why are these guys getting the Oscars? The actors and direct, but no, they have the producers come up and get the Oscars for Best Picture. Why? But
Attention whores.
I'm like, they just gave up the money. They didn't do anything else. But now,
Right.
having talking
No.
to especially indie producers such as yourself as well, I'm like, I have a whole another level of respect for producers. And then
Yeah.
especially when you're doing producing, directing, acting, and editing, though, did that help? Because you were the director and in front of the camera, you were involved in a lot of the scenes. Did that help with your editing in putting it together because you kind of knew what you were going to use ahead of time?
I'll tell you, when I read a script or when I'm writing a script,
Mhm.
I'm already seeing it in the edit. Before we cast, before
Sure.
I edit it in my head. And that's really helpful for obvious reasons. That's why I
Mhm.
love editing what I direct. I know that's not always going to be the luxury every
Right.
time, but it is a huge bonus when you have the person who was there the entire time. It usually makes going through the footage a lot faster. I remember which takes. I go, oh yeah, I remember there was that weird sound in the background. That's why we do. So all those things does expedite the editing process. And I also do my own storyboards. I do my
Oh, okay.
shot list, and because I'm also an artist, I draw Easter egg comic books and graphic novels. I still plan on doing that. I only have so much time, but for now, that parlays itself
Mm,
into the filmmaking. But yes, I do my best to get my visual circus onto a type of medium that I can then share with the other producers, that I can share with my DP. And my favorite thing to do is to do a storyboard and a shot list, give it to the DP and go, make this make sense. Feel free to give me the reality check because I am
mhm.
not a cinematographer, and things I'm trying to translate, sometimes I don't use the right terminology or I'm not thinking of the right transition. So I love to use them to clean everything up and make it make sense. And that's where we really can fine tune what could work and what might not. So usually I add too many shots on purpose. I over add shots
Sure.
because then the DP goes, we can combine this and we can go this, and I go, see, I wouldn't have known. Nope, nope. Like, let's just condense it down and make it make sense. And we were able to do that with this. So with the tight shooting schedule that we had, it was even more paramount to know
Mhm.
exactly what shots we were
Sure.
supposed to get and what order and what made the most sense for the shooting schedule. So that was really, really helpful. I think if I could have changed anything with the shooting schedule, I probably would have shot the scene without giving anything away. The first scene we shot that morning,
Mhm.
I would have moved it actually to the second day in the
Oh,
morning because we had the luxury at the time of only being at the one location on the property, and we could have swung it because we had a big chunk of time in between waiting for it to be nighttime too. So even if we had switched it, that way we could have just been at the hotel the entire day
right.
one.
Sure.
We were at a different location in the morning, which was still in the same town, but we still had to do a company move, set everything up in the hotel. And we'd been up since early, early that morning getting everything
Sure.
ready. So it's not like you just showed up and it was 10 o'clock. We had been up and awake since like 6 or 7 in the morning, and call time was 8, I believe. And so by the time we were getting all of the last bits of footage for the hotel scene, we were gassed. It was he had haze going. Someone got sick from the haze. They had to go lay
Oh,
down. People were, it was just a long day. And
sure.
there was just little things that in hindsight for me, I was like, if we were a little bit fresher, a little bit more awake, this wouldn't happen, guys. It wouldn't happen. But you learn. It's fine. But other than that, I think everything played out the way it was supposed to.
Mhm.
And yeah, producers are the lifeblood of a production. They really are in charge of putting it together. And I will say that Brandon and Justin really kicked butt and took names when it came to that, because they did the heavier lifting of the producing than I did, to be honest. That's why I don't even consider myself personally a producer on this. They really built that world, because I got brought on, I think it was less than 3 weeks from filming,
Mm,
so it wasn't
okay,
like I was from there from the beginning.
sure.
They threw me in and I was like, I'm sorry, when are we shooting? Hmm, I'm available, but oh my God. And then I had to play catch up, and they did
Sure.
everything to make my job easier, and that was just a huge help. So they did a phenomenal job with producing.
Well, yeah, I mean, producers are there from day one. I mean,
Yeah.
I think people don't quite get how much. Well, and I'm sure, it's old hat knowledge for you. The more pre-production you can do, the easier your production is. So
Yeah.
that's why, you hear about, and that's the double-edged sword of the internet, right? While the internet is so full of great knowledge and everything, you're also looking for instant knowledge about like films coming out and that. So they start a buzz of a film that's going to come out, and then you don't see it about a year and a half, 2 years. You're like, and you got people online going, "Where the hell's this film? Why has it been pushed?" And but those who work in the business like yourself, no, that's the producers trying to just put this film together, and especially with bigger projects or smaller ones, trying to basically herd cats, right?
Exactly. It is brutal, but that speaks to the love that we have for this industry, because we do it, we welcome it, and we love the challenge. And when I do consulting, I have people, send me scripts and stuff, and usually for features, for example, and they'll say, well,
Sure.
you know, ballpark, like how long would it take to maybe bring this and put it all together? And I was like, you want the real answer, or do you want to be nice? Because I would say 3 to 5 years,
Hmm.
respectfully. And
Right.
that's if you have the funding.
Right.
It's because things can always fall through. You can have the funding and then the funds get lost or they get pulled out, and then you shelve projects or things don't work out. So it's the long game. And with short films, it's the opposite, right? Because you don't it's a short film. So you think,
Right.
oh, it needs to be done fast. But even sometimes, depending on the production and the team, even sometimes that can take a while. It'll get done, but you'll just never see it.
Right.
Or it's in editing forever, or whatever the excuse may be. And I've really prided myself with my production company that the actors that I've worked with, they get footage for their demo reels. It doesn't
Sure.
disappear. I don't
Hmm.
disappear. And as an actor, I've been on the receiving end of that, where you're just like, I don't even remember what I did that project for, and you just never see it again. And
Right.
I never. It sucks to you can only get work when you're showing the work you've done, and when you don't have that to show,
Yeah.
you're stuck. So I never want to put actors that I work with in a position to be part of a project, have a great time with it, and then never see it again. I won't do that to anybody. So
And I guess so, with the tools you have now, though, depending on the filmmaker, you do have more of the opportunity to get that work because a lot more indie filmmakers, especially those who have been around it forever. I'm an old guy, and I made a video many years ago when I first started doing YouTube. I did a web series. In front of a green screen with my stormtrooper action figure from Star Wars, and he was doing a
yeah,
vlog. And he was doing a
okay.
vlog, but I was shooting it with a DV camera too. So you hear the little whine of the DV, and I was
Oh,
still, yeah. So, and I'm using some Pro-Am software, but I did like 30 episodes, like 2 minute episodes of the vlog. Anyway, I had someone comment a few years ago. They're like, "Oh, I found this. I remember watching this when I was a kid." And I'm like, "What do you mean watched it when you were a kid?" And then I looked and I'm like, "Oh yeah, you were a kid."
yeah, the
Yeah,
math is mathing, as they say. You
math is math.
know,
But
you
we're
can't tell, but I've been around too. Like it's very deceiving, I know, but I know the DV cameras. All the stuff you probably could say terminology wise, I'm like, yep, I remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you get the
VCRs and all
Yep,
that stuff.
you get the little whine of the camera. But
Yeah.
where I was going with it is that more and more filmmakers who have grown up with those tools at hand since they were kids now are utilizing it for their projects. So you see more and more n- skipping the distribution model even and just going to posting their stuff on YouTube or
Yeah.
Patreon or Vimeo
Mhm.
and doing it that way. And so now that content, as long as their channel's up, you can go get your short film, right? Now you can get your
Totally.
footage. And so
Yeah.
that does make it a little easier for them.
It does. It does. And I think the fact that there is so much, even though there seems to be endless content, there is an endless audience of people that want to consume said
Mhm.
content. So it's almost like you can find your people, you can find your tribe. There's somebody out there that's going to like what you do. So that does give that boost of confidence to
Right.
make you feel like you're not so alone. And, you're not going to please everybody, obviously. But if you just have a couple people, that feels good to say, like, hey, I can't wait for your next episode, or I have a special request. And it's like, for me? Like, okay, thank you. It's a
And
good feeling.
and it's great you have that now. As I've talked to some folks too, it's like just because you do have the camera and you want to make something that's awesome doesn't always mean that you should put it out for public though. Some of your early stuff, you know what I mean? You show it to your friends. That I know I've got a couple things that I when I was trying my hand at it, I'm like, yeah, that's never seen the light of day again.
Uh,
When I did reviews in college, I digitized the footage. I showed little clips, but I watched my reviews from back then, and I'm like, yeah, no, that's never good. That's I'll show a little clip. That's not going.
Going in the vault. It's going in the vault. It's like actors who paid their dues doing terrible movies early on, and you don't know about them until they get famous, and then they're just like, oh, damn it, forgot about that.
Well, Well, everybody, a lot of people start off. I'm a genre guy myself, though I do like a good drama. I love my horror and my sci-fi, and
Yeah.
so many folks get their start doing indie horror because there's so many people who
Oh
love
yeah.
doing indie horror. You've done indie horror. I watched your short, No Trophies, which is wonderful.
Thank you.
I adored that story and the way it got put together and everything. I was like, "Oh man, this is awesome." Uh,
That was
you,
it.
so you've covered a lot of different genres. Do you have a particular
Yeah.
one, or do you like to keep it open?
I am a drama girl at heart. I want drama in my life in film, not in real life. Like
Right.
that's what the boundary there. There's just something about the pacing, the depth with which you can
Mhm.
get into human emotion and the
Sure.
interconnectedness. That's always been appealing to me. So drama, I'm here for it. Whether it's a period piece drama or current, give it to me. Um, I have not done sci-fi yet. I'm a huge Star Wars nerd, so that's in my blood. So when you said Stormtrooper, I was like, yes. Speaking my language. But now I've kind of done the Western thing,
Sure.
the horror thing. I I won't say I respect the horror genre. I can't say I'm a horror fan because I
Mhm.
startle easily. I
Oh,
I
sure.
won't see. I'm that person. Okay. I watched The Grudge in the theater like a dummy and I didn't sleep for 3 days. I can't, it ruined my
Sure.
life. But there are horror, movies that I do like, and
Right.
but I'm not gonna run to go watch all of them. I have to watch them in my own time, at home, in the daytime, with the volume low. I'm that person, okay?
Sure.
But in terms of filmmaking and doing that genre, yeah, it's just like any other story that you would tell within specific parameters and certain expectations that the audience has. So that's what's really fun. And especially when you do it right, because it
Mhm.
can be really, really good or so bad people watch it because it's bad. And I would never want to be that filmmaker where people watch my film
Sure.
because it's so bad.
Sure.
But with No Trophies, we were really blessed with a solid team. That was actually the first short that I had directed and produced that was not my own story. Someone came
Oh,
to me with the story, close family friend, Jim Jones. And so there was already that trust there, but he was like, it's yours. Let's do something with this. And he is the one who played the father of the
right.
werewolf. And so sourcing that team, getting the special effects artist Wendy, she she lives near me, so I actually got to go and help and watch the molds be made and
Oh
work with the
wow.
actors and do. So I was there watching all of the painstaking love and care she was putting into doing everything,
Mhm.
and it was just phenomenal to see it all come together. And of course, Murphy's Law is in effect, what, 25/8 when it comes to film. So we definitely had some scares, no pun intended, when it came to production and trying to get this thing done on time. And
Sure.
we actually chunked out a huge amount out of
Mhm.
that film because we ran out of time. We were
Oh
doing
sure.
night shoots. We were racing, before the sun came up. And I had to make on night one, I had to make a really important decision. And I told my DP, I said, hey, I need you to get me this two shot in a wide. I need it to be my master. And I'd kind of been bugging him about it because we were doing a lot of coverage and all the inserts and
Right.
stuff. And I was like, I need this to be a master. I need it. I need this entire scene as best as we can with the two of them in this frame. And so we finally got it. And I'm glad we did because we were not able to shoot the additional coverage over the shoulders and the
Oh
whole
sure.
second half dialogue that happens between the father and the werewolf. And had we not gotten that master, we would have had no movie. I would have nothing to cut away to. It would not have made any sense. And even though it pained the writer who was starring it, obviously,
Mhm.
to lose that much dialogue, because it was really witty. There was some fun, dark humor in there. When I saw the edit come together, because I edited as well, of course, and the pacing was just better. It
Sure.
got right to the meat and potatoes. And, there is such a thing as doing too much telling and not enough showing.
Mhm.
So even though production had a bit of a heart attack with that hard pivot, it's exactly the way it was supposed to be. So that's where I'm able to just lean into being uncomfortable and not always being in control of certain things. And in the home of film, that's like the only thing in my life where I can let go of certain control and go okay, because 99.9% of the time, it's exactly what was supposed to happen for that project.
Yeah, and especially when you're doing shorts. I like shorts because you get in and out, you don't have a lot of extra.
Mhm.
You've got a certain amount of time. And I always love watching what I always say, waiting for the shoe to drop. Like,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
always that other shoe to drop in a short where you start off with this concept, you're like, okay, when is that, like
Like,
like you
where's it?
had like you had in No Trophies, with kind of the hook at the end with her, don't as long as he doesn't make me upset. And I love that whole.
Yeah, Trisha killed that role. She was phenomenal.
And and it's one of those things where I've mentioned it to some other folks too, and I'm like, I think the technology is also a double-edged sword. One, it makes you for you as an indie filmmaker, it makes it more accessible as far as what you can do with technology. But I think Hollywood has gotten. I'm gonna get on a soapbox. Hollywood gotten a little lazy
Yeah,
with the technology because they don't have the constraints they used to. I mean, they're literally shooting pickup scenes and editing a week before it gets pushed out digitally to the theaters. And I'm like, man, I remember as a kid, it was like 2 or 3 years and it was on film. And so they had to make sure that they could shoot this much because film was expensive.
yes, it was.
So their shot, I think the shots were tighter. I think
Yeah,
films were a little tighter because they couldn't afford to shoot as much coverage or just keep shooting or well, we'll just clear
right,
through it later. I mean,
right.
and at least on indie films, you have the constraint of time and budget, right? So
We
even
have
though
a lot of checks and balances.
where it seems like Hollywood nowadays doesn't really have a limited budget, you're at least still got some checks and balances.
Yeah.
And none of you are real fans of bloated movies either, I imagine.
No, I think just to have something at a 2 hour and 30-minute runtime just because you can, is a little overkill for me. And because when I'm watching something, even if I'm really enjoying it, but after a while, if I'm kind of doing this, like, why? Why is this still?
Right.
This is what editing is for. And if anything, that's what I kind of miss about the DVD era, where you had director's cuts, where you had the commentary, where you had bonus features. That's where that's supposed to live.
Right.
Okay. And it was just, you could kind of pick your poison. But now we're just kind of being force fed the vision
Mhm.
sometimes. And, I'm okay. I would rather you just get to the point. You can linger on a shot maybe, or have a certain exchange that's unspoken. Those kinds of things I like. Build in that tension. But if it's just a lot of telling, if it's just a lot of random stuff, you can tell, and it doesn't do anything for the film. And I just feel like it's so obvious. So that's sometimes when you're too close to your own project. I think in those instances, when I see those things happening, even with big budget films, it's usually because it's the writer director, like it's one person, it's their
Hmm.
baby. And that's when you go, he couldn't let the baby go. Baby had to go to school. He didn't want the baby to go to school. He said, I'm gonna homeschool it a little bit longer. Like, you gotta let that go, sweetie. Like, you can't. And I try to be very conscious of those projects that I'm on where that's my case too, where I have to go, okay, I have to step away for a
Right.
little bit and do my best and get other opinions. So
Yeah, and
that's what's happened.
I find as a viewer that the better indie films are the ones where I find out that the director, yeah, after I put this together, I gave it to three other people and said, please be brutally honest and look
Yeah.
at this film and let me know because they recognize they're too close to it. And I've seen some films where I'm like, this movie would be great if it was like an hour shorter, but they were the
Yes.
composer, director, editor, producer in front of the camera. You know, it's like, and mad props, he got the passion. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you you got to look at it from the viewer angle too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I forget who said it. It's funny because I did cover this quote in one of my Film Speak episodes, but the quote paraphrasing is, I make movies for myself, kind of like one of those
Right.
things. That's nice, but like priorities, okay? Go make that movie and keep it over here.
Sure.
Then make the movie for us and
Mhm.
then give us that one.
Yeah,
Respectfully.
I was impressed in your movie speaks. You even have a quote from Mr. Ed Wood, one of my favorite directors. So in
I
one of your episodes. So
it's a fun little thing that I decided to do when I first decided in 2020 that I wanted to have my own production company, and I was trying to build content and figure out my brand and what I wanted to stand for, because I wanted it to be as easy as possible for someone who's never met me, never worked with me, to find content, to hear me speak about it, to get an idea of my expectations, how I carry myself, what my brand is. And I felt like with the Film Speak series, 1 minute quick sound bites, candidly responding. There's hundreds of quotes out there about films and filmmaking, and it just seemed super fun, very easy, and I have a blast doing them. So
and you also do mentoring. I mean, you wear so many. I was just looking at your website and everything, and I'm like, wow, is there anything she doesn't do? It's like, wow, there's so
yeah,
many wonderful things that you're doing, but you do mentoring as
yeah.
well. Could you tell me a little bit about that? What made you want to get into mentoring?
So I have always had a heart for helping other people and helping other people succeed, because I've been fortunate to do everything that I've been wanting to do. And there's such fulfillment from that. And I worked in corporate America for a very short period of time, and it was not a great experience. And I know that there's a home for people in the 9 to 5, and I give you guys props because it does help the world go round. But there was also so many people that I knew who were stuck. And I would ask them, well, if you weren't here, what would you be doing? That's just a favorite thing for me to ask people. And they would say, oh, I would do this, or I would love to do this. And to just see the hope in their eyes, but then see it kind of die because they just
Sure.
weren't in a position to probably pursue it, breaks my heart. And so as long as I've been doing modeling and acting, with the modeling is kind of where it started, because I was on message boards for one of my jobs as an online writer for beauty and health and wellness. And so we'd be on these different message boards that were geared towards younger girls and teens. And I would find the modeling forums, and there was so much wrong information about what it takes to be a model, and can I be a model? No, you're too short. And it's just like, hello, 5'5", 5'4", like, been doing it. Let me keyboard warrior
Sure.
this. And I just started giving information, just accurate information. Hey,
Mhm.
here's what it really takes. Here are the requirements. You don't have to be 5'10", and here's what you do if you are shorter. And then it just became this crusade that I took on upon myself to just educate people, because I don't think it's fair for anyone to say, you can't do that, you shouldn't do that. Let
Mhm.
that person find out for themselves. And if it's not for them, that's okay. But they deserve that journey if they want it badly enough. So I started my blog, which was a modeling blog, and that was in 2007. And it just grew, and it became like a resource for people. So people started emailing me directly with their modeling aspirations. And then that kind of became the mentoring side of things. And as I started to really progress with acting, I just found the same need for people to just understand what their options were and do my best to at least speak from my personal and professional experience, having been in this industry for almost 30 years. It's like I have a lot to say, and I love helping people, teaching people, helping them get to where they want to be, because I want them to avoid the pitfalls that I had to go through back in the day
Right.
when we didn't have the internet and you couldn't really fact check a lot of people. It just wasn't possible. So I then started coaching for pageants. And then it became this whole just, I just want to help people get where they got to go and reach their potential to the best of their ability. So then I started my coaching website because I was like, this is all over the place. I want to consolidate it. I want to brand it properly. So I came out with DaniaD.com, which is where I have all the information for people who are actors, models, pageant contestants, just all different levels. That's kind of where that's housed, where if you are really invested and you want to pursue this, hit me up. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about your goals and your dreams and if I can help with that. So with the filmmaking, that also is kind of in the same arena.
Sure.
I always call my sets teaching sets, they're learning sets. Even if people are super OGs, chances are there's somebody there who's brand new or is pretending like they're not brand new. And I want everyone to feel comfortable and safe being new and asking questions. And I want to show them, hey, here's hands-on experience. Work with the department head. You want to be a first AC? Let's work with the DP. He'll tell you everything you need to know. And I work with people on my sets who have that instinct to want to teach as well. I really am not interested in crew who get there just to punch in and punch out, even if they
Sure.
like their job. I prefer somebody who's excited about passing it, paying it forward to the next generation and going, yeah, you're not my competition. If anything, this is how I build a legacy is by teaching you what I've learned and making you a better crew member in whatever position you want to be in. So the mentorship aspect of what I do is just as important to me as the traditional kind of filmmaking, modeling, acting, pageantry roles that I do myself.
Wow, and that's awesome. And I think that runs in folks who are in, let's just say, our experience, our level of experience of over the years. A lot of us I've seen similar age and doing this for so long are in the
Yeah.
same boat of taking that concept of, yeah, no, I don't want you to go through what I went through. I want you to be able to excel a lot quicker, hit the ground running than doing the grind that I did,
Yeah.
back in the
Yeah.
day, when you first started, because the environment's so different and it's changed just in the last 15, 20 years. It has changed so
Yes.
much. So that is awesome that you want to help folks. You wear a lot of hats. I know we're going a little long, but I just want to ask, who would you say, filmmaking wise, is one of your biggest influences?
Ugh, ugh, question. Um,
That's
I
like when
actually,
that's like when
yeah,
someone asks me what my favorite movie is. I get the exact same
you
look on
know,
my face.
you feel my pain. I actually have, I want to say three
Okay,
inspirations in terms of like my filmmaking, just like, whoa, this is where I need to
sure,
be. So when I was younger, and I don't know why, I don't know why I didn't think that you could be an actor and a director. It just didn't
sure,
register to me
right.
until I saw A Bronx Tale.
Oh,
And I learned that that was Robert De Niro's directorial debut, and he was in it. And I love Chaz Palminteri. Like, I just love, that's one of my favorites. And when I saw that, I went, huh, that's an option. But I didn't at the time have aspirations. I didn't know I was going to be a director. And I didn't know
right.
if I'd be a good director. But when I saw that, that showed me that it was possible. So that was kind of what planted the seed early on. I also love the director. I want to try to get her name right. Gina Prince Bythewood.
Okay.
I saw her film called Beyond the Lights. I should double check this. Beyond the Lights, Behind the Lights. I want to say it's Beyond the Lights. Sorry, Gina. Sorry. When I saw that and she wrote it, she directed it. But what impressed me the most was that her lead actress, Gugu Mbatha-Raw, when she was shopping it around to the studios, they were like, "We love this film. We want to produce it. We'll give you the money, but we want to replace Gugu. We want to put somebody else in there." And she said, nope, she's my actress. She walked away from so many studios. And then she finally found one that gave her a home and it totally worked out. And when I watch the film, it's just one of those where I go, I would totally have done exactly what she did. I like the cinematography. I like the editing that, oh, I would have, this is a movie I would have done if I was her. And so that really resonated with me and inspired me. And then, of course, I love Reese Witherspoon
Oh
because
yeah. Hmm.
she has become such a powerhouse behind the
Yeah.
camera, and I really respect her acting trajectory, the roles that she's chosen. And then I'm a huge bookworm. I've always wanted to adapt books into film.
Sure.
So
Sure.
the fact that she created an entire company that pretty much does that, these are three heroes of mine that just show me how much is possible. And I am inspired every day by the work that they did, and continue to do.
And those are all great picks. And you're right, it is Beyond the Lights. I did a quick
Thank
IMDb
you.
ship. I did a quick little check just so that double check. But yeah, it was Beyond the Lights. And yeah, and I think, and I'm not saying this just because you're here, but I think your work will be an inspiration to folks, especially women, because even though it's 2025, it is still
You wouldn't know it.
hard. It's yeah, I'm your firsthand. I'm not explain trying to explain. I'm just saying that the
No, I
other
didn't.
female directors I've talked to as well have said it's still a challenge. I mean, there are a few more opportunities, but would you say it is still kind of a challenge just getting your foot in the old boys club?
1,000%. It
Yeah.
is not uncommon for me to walk into a room and I'm, if not the only one of the only females. That has been changing with more sets that I've been on, which has been
Mhm.
absolutely phenomenal, especially with female DPs and, female first ADs. Like I'm seeing more of them and I'm working with them. So that's been extremely encouraging. But yes, 9 times out of 10, I go into certain rooms and I'm already built for the battle, right? I
Yeah.
don't come off defensive. I'm more the silent killer type where I already understand you're going to see me first for the
Yeah.
physicality, and then you're going to see that I'm a female, a woman of color. And you wouldn't know that I have the amount of knowledge and experience I have just by looking at me. So I give grace in that sense. But most of the time, I'm prepared for however people are going to receive me based on the first, glance.
Right.
And I just kind of let them talk. I don't lead with, like, I don't feel
Sure.
the need to have to say, hey, so I've done this. No, I've been in the game for this long. I
Yeah.
let them talk. And then I kind of see what their approach is. And
Right.
then I just kind of let them hang themselves like slowly. And then because usually unsolicited, they're giving me advice.
Sure.
They're offering just unsolicited, whatever.
Hmm.
And I'm smiling. And I'm like, thank you. So I appreciate that. Like that's okay. I hadn't thought about it like that. And then I go and I work and they're like, oh shit. And then they're super nice because they are hoping that I don't call them out on it. And I don't because I'm gracious.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I have a really bad habit of proving people wrong. Like it just feels really good. And it feels good to show and not
Sure.
tell people because in this
Right.
industry, everybody talk, 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 talk. We have hype people for days, but show me your talent,
Mhm.
show me how you work on a set. And I say this with no ego. People watch me work on set and they go, oh, damn,
Mhm.
I would never pull any BS on her watch. Like, I
Yeah.
want to bring my A game. I don't want to disappoint her. And that's the kind of presence you have to command, regardless of what your gender is. I think when you're passionate, when you're professional, this is not a hobby for me.
Mhm.
This is something I want to do full time, that I'm striving to do full time. And I want people that have that same mentality and work ethic and love and passion. Good enough is not good enough in my book. There's so many lazy shortcuts, fix it in post that makes my
Sure.
skin crawl. Um,
That would
but
make my friend who's the professional editor. That makes his skin crawl.
oh,
I'll send him
oh,
a
of course.
meme like that. Yeah, I'll send him a meme
Oh,
every so often that says, "We'll fix it in post," and he's like, "I hate you."
like my heart just like I started sweating. It's gross. I don't like it. But yeah, being a woman in this industry though, I wouldn't trade it for anything because here's the thing. My goal is not to be the best female director. I want to be the best director. I
Sure.
want my skill set and my talents and my love for my team and what I do to transcend any criteria or category or box you want to put me in. I
Sure.
want it to speak for itself to where I don't need that. That's nice, but that's not how I'm seeing it. I see the bigger picture. So That's important to me.
Well, that is awesome. This has been a pleasure, Dania. As Scar is the short film you're working on now, you've got a variety of projects coming up. Where's the best place for them to keep up with your projects? You mentioned your mentoring website, but is there another place where they can keep up with you and what you're all working on?
Absolutely. I would say the easiest right now is Instagram. My branding is very simple. If you just Google Dania Denise, Dania Denise, those are my handles on everything pretty much. So at Instagram, at Dania Denise. Runaway Mill Productions now has an Instagram as well, and that is at Runaway Mill Productions. And then I'm also on LinkedIn. I am still on Facebook. That's going to be around for a while. I built that up for years, guys. I'm not letting that go. Okay. I don't
Right.
care. That ages me. That's super annoying to me. People are like, why do you still have Facebook? I'm like, what? So, like, we can't be, but yeah. So Google me. I pop up any type of work that you're interested in from me. I have a website probably dedicated to it, so you'll find exactly what lane you want to work with me in. And I look forward to the inquiries and hopefully making some really great magic with people.
That is awesome. Well, I think you've got some magic coming up. And yeah, folks, there'll be links for all of this down in the description of this video, podcast, and such. Dania, it has been a pleasure. And yeah, check it out, folks. Keep an eye out for Scar. And then go to her web YouTube channel and check out No Trophies, as well as the other shorts that are there, and the web series. So much content and such out there. It has been a pleasure and honor, and thank you, Dania. And yeah, hopefully, be happy to have you back on your next project. We'd love to have you talking some more when you're when it's ready.
Anytime. This has been great. Thank you so much. And thanks guys for watching. Hire me. I'm available for work. Director, editor, actor. I'm here. Hit me up.